A Starfield player by the name Malagrugus Petroon has discovered a rare ship part that doesn't show up in the game's menu, and this ship part is in a category all of its own. So I'm going to tell you what this ship part means, how it can potentially play into upcoming DLC, and where you can find this for yourself. Writing on Reddit, the player says, "I found a 1x1 bedroom in a derelict. This isn't hiding in the shipbuilder, is it?" End quote. Along with that caption, they also included an image of an incredibly strange ship part with a fold-out bed and a big hole in the floor. Pretty unsafe there, but there are two reasons this is a strange ship part. The first reason is that it's a 1x1 hab, which makes it the smallest hab in the game. Habs, or in other words, habitation modules, are typically larger than 1x1. In fact, the only other 1x1 ship parts in the game are companionways, which are basically just building blocks that let you fill out your ship. They don't really have anything useful in them. But this 1x1 hab is essentially a tiny square bedroom, which you never see in Starfield, and it opens up loads of cool tiny ship builds. So that's the first thing making it a unique ship part in Starfield. The second reason it's rare is because it doesn't show up in the menu. You can look for this at any vendor and they won't stock it. Instead, the player who found this part discovered it in a random derelict ship, not at any ship vendor, and considering these are randomly generated, these derelict ships, there is unfortunately no set location at which you're going to discover this. Even if you did, there's no way you could even have it for yourself because there is no mechanic in Starfield where you can harvest ship parts. You can't find a ship, strip it for parts, and then take those parts for yourself. So even if you knew where this was, all you could really do is have a look around the tiny confines of this 1x1 hab and maybe have a little sleep in the bed. So that sounds kind of negative and kind of pointless since you're never going to find this for yourself, but there is one other way you can find this, one alternate location, and that is on board the SSNN sloop. Now, I've not run into this one yet, but I have seen players say they've encountered this random encounter occasionally in orbit around Gunnyboo 3A. This is in the Gunnyboo system. I mean, maybe I have found this encounter, but I've just straight up ignored it, and then it hasn't shown up again. This is a random encounter, and you might be able to trigger it by traveling between different systems. The SSNN sloop encounter is basically a short little side quest where you're invited to board a vessel by a reporter and take part in a survey. Once you've answered all of the questions correctly, the reporter's response will be contextual based on how many answers you got right. So for instance, if you got all of the questions right, the reporter will mention that the channel they run will need to provide smarter coverage if they want to satisfy well-informed citizens like yourself, which is a very nice compliment.
I hope you enjoyed your complimentary food item. Thanks again for participating in our survey.
But on the other hand, if you get none of the questions right, the reporter says they'll need to dumb down the channel's coverage, which is a bit of an insult. You will also get a bundle of credits before they send you on your way. But if you stick around and poke your nose around their ship, you will find that yes, this is the only other place containing a 1x1 hab. Again, I can't verify that personally as I haven't found this particular ship, but I have found reports from people saying that that's the case, and it does contain this rare, unique hab. So if you guys have found it, do let me know in the comments if that's correct. But what does this hab mean and why is it in the game? Well, it might actually be that this hab is just a glitch, because I can't really see why the devs would include a ship part that you couldn't own. As far as I know, it's the only ship part in Starfield you can see, but not actually use, with every other single ship in the game being made up of ownable, buildable ship parts. That seems to be the case. I mean, that is, of course, aside from Class M capital ships, because they're about a mile long. You cannot build using these parts. The 1x1 hab strikes me as a 1x1 companionway kind of gone a bit wrong, like for some reason it's glitched its way into having a bed. Or maybe it's a 2x1 hab that had sort of an end sliced off it accidentally. So maybe it's just gone a tiny bit wrong, but that is the cynical reading of this part. Another more optimistic reading is that it's an early piece of DLC, and maybe it's been revealed too soon. Maybe Bethesda is planning to introduce a wave of new ship parts with different functionalities, and they forgot that this one part was in the game all along. Hey, it is a massive game, you're always going to miss something, and personally I've played this for hundreds of hours since launch and I haven't stumbled upon this ship part once, so it truly is a one-off and there really isn't anything else like this in the game. So it's really not out of the question for Bethesda to simply add in new items and assets in a later update. In Fallout 4, for instance, the Wasteland Workshop added tons of objects for camp building, so you could then build much more expansive, much more detailed camps. The Vault Tech DLC added vault building areas and pieces, the Contraptions DLC added more camp stuff and factories, and the Automatron DLC even added buildable robots, which is something Starfield could do with its mechs. So let's say we see some more of that kind of stuff before people, lose interest in this game, because the shipbuilding system is incredibly versatile, but there's only so far you can take it before you've pretty much built everything. That said, if you're playing on PC, you have way more ship parts to choose from, and you can mod this specific ship part into your game right now. A player by the name of Outlaw11091 has built a range of tiny 1x1 Habs modelled after all of the manufacturers in the game. So we have a Deimos one, a Nova Galactic one, a Teo one, etc. And they all offer a different spin on the concept of cramped living spaces. So one has little sofas in the corner, one even has an oven where you can do your cooking. It's a much more realistic ship part, in my opinion, and one that kind of mirrors space travel as it exists today, where space is at a premium and every square inch counts. We don't have room for a dartboard and beanbags. All we've got is a little fold-out bed and maybe a seat. And for me personally, I love the challenge of doing a tiny build where you have to build the smallest ship possible using the least number of parts. Other games also have this concept. Some call it a cozy build, where you have to build tiny houses in the likes of Animal Crossing or The Sims. So hopefully Starfield adopts a similar feature in its next update and lets us build smaller, cozier starships using 1x1 Habs. Then we can combine it with the 1x1 companionways, the one-person cockpits and the tiny engines, and instead of massive starships we can build nimble little fighting craft. Because all of the X-Wing builds that I've seen in Starfield so far are still monstrously huge. Anyway, that was a quick video on the 1x1 Hab that this player discovered. A really rare and really unique ship part, but if you found this in your game, do let me know down in the comments. Let me know where you found it so I can have a look myself. Anyway, thanks for watching, and for more Starfield videos, make sure to subscribe to the channel.